Yes. That's a big tenet of Buddhism, that our happiness and suffering is rooted in our own mind. And external things are the cooperative conditions that make the karma ripen. But, you know, uh, our attitudes, our motivations when we did certain actions, influence the situations that we'll encounter and how we respond. And in addition, at the time that we encounter something external, what's going on in our mind um, is also influencing how we feel. Yeah. So we usually think happiness and suffering outside. So I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and I this, and I want to get rid of that, and that, and that, and that. But the whole idea in Buddhism is change your mind, and then you really change your experience. Yeah.
A question that came up yesterday was, how do we know that the mind is immaterial?
How do you know it's immaterial? Well, try and find it and see if it's material.
But couldn't you say the brain, you can find the brain?
Oh, you find the brain, are the brain and the mind the same thing?
Why not?
Well, we had a very interesting time at one of the early Mind and Life conferences with His Holiness Dalai Lama, because he wanted to have all these dialogues with scientists. So there was one scientist who was invited, who was really, what's the word? Like materialistic. Everything is material, okay? So the brain is the mind, and that's it. And, you have your, your electrical, chemical stuff going on. Okay, so he made that case. All the Buddhists are sitting there and going, listening politely. And, yes, the mind and the brain have some kind of relationship, but they aren't the exact same thing. And so after it left, after that day was over and that scientist left, some of us were talking and saying, oh, he must have a wonderful relationship with his wife. She says, I love you, dear. And he goes, wait a minute, I want to see what your galvanic skin response is. I want to check your dopamine and serotonin levels, and only if they meet this standard will I know that that's actually what you feel is love. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that was one conversation with them. Then another conversation. This one I had with one of the scientists over at lunch, and again, very, I can't remember the word. I think it starts with an R. Anyway, yeah, you see what happens. My name is, yeah, no, it's, yeah, why can't I remember that word? Anyway, so I was talking with him over lunch. We were talking about anger, and again, he was saying, it's just the brain. There's nothing more than the brain. And I said, well, when you're angry, do you tell yourself, oh, there's nothing to be mad at because this is just the firing of electrodes in my brain? It's just the firing of neurons in my brain. So there's nothing to be angry at, because that's all anger is. Yeah? Yeah. So do you think whatever you're understanding right now is just a bunch of chemicals? So that if you took somebody's brain and you put it out there, you would have access to all their information. Yeah. And that if you put somebody's brain out there, you could say to it, do you love me? And the brain would react. Or, the brain's just, it's vegetable, organic goo. Yeah. When you love somebody, yeah, if their brain were sitting here, would you go, wow, I love you so much? Those gray folds in the tissue, with the blood vessels. Oh, forget your eyes are like diamonds and your teeth are like pearls. That brain is like, oh, it really turns me on. And that person is so, I just look at their brain and I can feel their compassion for me. What do you think? Okay, so think about it. Think about it. Okay, I should also tell you this story of because what the nature of the mind is, has to do with rebirth. That because if the mind is just material, then like the body, it it becomes the worm's lunch, and after you die, in which case there is no rebirth. Okay, so yeah, so if there's no rebirth, then what are you doing alive? Yeah, if your mind is the brain, then what happened? You just have a bunch of organic material coming together, and all of a sudden it becomes conscious. Yeah. And if it can happen like that, then maybe a grapefruit has mind. Yeah. And you could fall in love with a grapefruit, and a grapefruit could solve the world's problems and also make the world's problems. Yeah. Then we can have a campaign to either glorify all grapefruits or pass legislation to make sure that nobody grows grapefruits again. In which case some grapefruit is going to say you're persecuting us. So the story that I wanted to tell you, when I went to Copan, there were three young monks who were recognized as incarnations of people from the previous life, and one of them, his previous life was a very, very well respected teacher, who was actually, he was at Copan, and this was Lama Yeshe's previous teacher, who had passed away. And yeah. So apparently, when he was quite young, and they start memorizing texts when they're young, but there were many texts that he had not yet memorized in this life, the young boy. But in his sleep, he would recite texts that the previous life had memorized. So when he's in this body, this life, sleeping, and apparently dreaming and reciting the text that he had memorized in his previous life. Okay, so if the brain is and the mind are the same thing, then I guess that text was in the form of electrical currents and organic chemicals in his brain, and so he could recite it. Yeah. But you would think when he was reciting, he would recite the names of the elements that and the kind of um, electricity that was being, going on in his brain. Why didn't he recite that? Why did he recite texts?
You speak about dreams and how he was reciting, text in his dreams. What is the Buddhist, I guess, perspective on dreams?
Um, Dreams are often used as an analogy of how something appears but does not exist the way it appears. Because when you dream, you can dream of all sorts of things that aren't there when you wake up. Yeah. But when you're dreaming, these things appear quite real. And you can have monsters chasing you, and you can have a romantic relationship all in your dream, and nobody's there. So it's often used in that way. In terms of do our dreams indicate things? I think for somebody, for some of the highly realized beings, they they do. Um, I think for the most part, most of us, our dreams are a way of digesting what happened during the day. Yeah. Um, it's interesting that there's one ceremony where we do, and they say, okay, tonight, remember your dreams, yeah, and come tomorrow and, yeah, remember your dreams. And then so everybody, really tries to remember their dreams. Comes the next day, what did you dream? What did you dream? We're all waiting like this is like so indicative and so important. And then the first thing the Lama says, oh, what did you dream? Oh, just remember it was a dream. Oh, everybody's let down. We wanted some incredible meaning to be shown in her dream. Okay. Sometimes, dreams can indicate different things. Um, it may indicate certain habits that you need to work on because you're doing the same thing in your dream that you're doing during life. Something that you need to clear up. For some people, it may give indications of future things, but as the Dalai Lama says, you don't know the future until it happens. Yeah. Okay. We had one person here who was making a lot of her life decisions according to her dreams.
Do you believe in volition in dreams? Like, do you believe that
dreams?
volition? Do you believe that dreams can have karmic effects?
Oh, a dream that has a karmic effect. If you, upon waking, yeah, let's say you dreamt of something non-virtuous. If you dream, if after you wake you said, "Oh yeah, that was good. I turned around and I slaughtered, a whole bunch of people who were chasing me in the dream." Well, if you rejoice in a negative action that was done in a dream, then that creates karma. If you dream, let's say, of making offerings or benefiting people, then if you wake up and you rejoice in that, you create some virtue. Yeah? But lots of times our dreams are, you really wouldn't want to do that in life. So then when you wake up, if you have regret and you say, oh, I regret doing that, I don't want to do that, you do, some purification, then that doesn't create the karma of doing that action. Yeah. But if you rejoice, good, yeah, then yeah, it's saying something about us, isn't it? In the same way that, what we rejoice at matters, and we create karma by what we rejoice at. Yeah, so we have to be very careful. Like Washington State is still a death penalty state. And when somebody is executed, if you go, oh, good, or if you're hoping, some politician or business person, whatever you don't like, you hope they get hit by a truck, and then they get hit by a truck and you're like, oh, good, now that guy's out of the way. You create karma by rejoicing in other people's negative actions. Yeah. So we also create virtuous karma by rejoicing in other people's virtuous actions. Yeah. And so we try and really practice that when we see somebody doing something virtuous, to really rejoice and feel happy about it and not feel jealous, like, oh, they created so much virtue, but I'm not, or even, learning to rejoice at somebody's opportunity. Yeah? Because how do we usually feel when somebody has an opportunity that we want, or when somebody gets something that we want? What's our usual emotion? Oh, you're all so sweet. You don't know this emotion. Come on. What do you feel when somebody gets something you want that you think you deserve? Hmm? And envy.
Jealousy.
That's it. Jealousy. Yeah. I can't bear that they have what I want. Yeah. Jealousy, it's a nasty mind. It's really nasty. But it's also extremely painful. Yeah. When you've been jealous, what's the feeling component in your mind? Are you thrilled? Are you happy when you're jealous? No, we're actually quite miserable, aren't we? Yeah. And, because that person has what I want and I deserve it. Why do I deserve it? Because I am me. And who can, happens to be the center of the universe, who should get everything I want. And it's totally unfair that that person has it. Right? Isn't that what goes on in your mind? You can admit it. We're with friends. We're all alike. You don't need to be ashamed. Yeah. It's incredibly, jealousy, it's incredibly painful. And for me, the pain of being jealous is what really motivated me to change my mind. And what's the antidote to jealousy? Okay, it's rejoicing. Of course, that's the last thing you want to do when you're jealous. You don't want to rejoice at somebody's good fortune or virtue or whatever. You want to take it away from them and have it for yourself. Yeah. So, that's the last thing you want to do, but is rejoice. But really, rejoicing is the antidote. It's like when I'm sitting there being jealous, it is so painful, isn't it? We've all been jealous before. It's so painful, you know. And the thing is, when we're jealous, we want to do something to take away from the other person what they have that we want. Yeah, whether it's they got the praise, they got status, they got who knows what. It doesn't have to be something material, you know. But uh, we want to take the source of that happiness away from them. Yeah. So we sit there and we plan our revenge. Yeah. Is jealousy a nice mind? Yeah. What's going on in you when you're planning your revenge? Yeah. Somebody's dating somebody that you want to date. How can I break up their relationship? Somebody got a promotion at work that I deserve. How can I trash them in front of the boss? You know, my brother or sister, got more accolades at school than I did. I can't stand that. How can I, make them look bad in my parents' eyes? Yeah. It's it's painful. It's painful. And it's nasty. And it doesn't bring any happiness at all, you know? So to actually be able to label the jealousy, and then change our mind and say, well, even if I were to succeed in taking that away from that person, yeah, ruining their reputation, getting the car that they got that I want, whatever it is, yeah, even I succeed in taking that away from them, is that necessarily going to mean that I have it? Even I cause dissension uh, between two people because I'm jealous of their close relationship. Does that mean that I'm going to have a close relationship after that with one of them? No. Yeah. It's just I broke them up. Yeah. But that's going to mean that I'm going to have happiness afterwards. Yeah. So, yeah, so just think about it. Mm-hmm. But learning to rejoice it's so hard at first because the last thing you want to do is rejoice at somebody else's good fortune when you think you should have it, you know? But if you really practice it, then the mind relaxes and then it's like, okay, something good happened to somebody else, in this world where there's so much misery, somebody else has some happiness. That's good. Yeah. I mean, after all, at Christmas time, we're always saying, may everybody have happiness and live together peacefully. Well, here somebody has some happiness. How come I want to take them away from it? When I say, may everybody have happiness, do I really mean it? Or do I mean, is it that self centered attitude again coming and saying, oh, yeah, me first. Me first. I deserve it. I want it. Everybody else afterwards. How many of you have siblings? Grew up with siblings? Okay, most of you. You don't. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so with siblings, you have to you know, you have to compromise and you have to learn somehow to get along. Yeah. And they may be better than you in some areas, but you also have your own talents and your own abilities, and your value as a human being is not dependent on how you compare, to your brother or sister. Yeah, because each one of us is a different person. We come in with different karma. Yeah. We come in with different karma. We have different talents. We have different interests. We don't need to compare ourselves with everybody else to have a sense of self-confidence and self-esteem. Yeah? So we have to really think about that quite deeply, because again, our society tells us that we're only valuable if other people praise us and approve of us and think we're wonderful. Okay, so so we have people like Mao Zedong. Many people praised him. Stalin people praised. Hitler people praised. Yeah. Were those people doing actions that helped humanity? Yeah. Just because somebody has a good reputation and people praise them doesn't mean that they're doing anything beneficial.
I was wondering, in relation to praise, how you can skillfully receive praise, and also if it is a beneficial thing to give to other people at times.
Okay. So yes, I think the second question, yes, it's good that we praise other people. Okay, because it's good for us to learn to see other people's good qualities, and it's also helpful to them to point out their qualities or their actions that they did that we appreciate. Okay, so just saying to somebody, you're a wonderful person, doesn't give them any useful information about what qualities they have that you appreciate or what actions they did that you like. Yeah? In the same way, if somebody calls you a name, it doesn't give you any useful information about your character. Somebody says, "You're such a jerk." Yeah. Yeah, what are the characteristics of a jerk? Can we come up, with the characteristics? I wonder if we could agree on the characteristics of a jerk, because I bet we come up with a whole bunch of different characteristics. Yeah. And if somebody is a jerk, yeah, at this moment, are they always a jerk? Are jerks irredeemable? So if somebody calls us a jerk, that means we are a jerk our whole life. We never change. And if somebody else tells us we're wonderful, it means we are wonderful in all situations for our entire life. Okay. What is reputation? We all want a good reputation. What is a reputation? Yeah. Is it a piece of paper saying that you did something? Is that your reputation? Is a reputation, something you recorded on your iPhone when somebody said something nice about you so you can play it back over and over again? Is your reputation what somebody writes on a card to you on your birthday? You know, when you really look, what is our reputation? It's only other people's thoughts. It's only other people's thoughts. That's what it is. It's nothing more than that. Okay? Somebody else's thoughts, our own thoughts. How durable are our thoughts? There's a thought, it comes and it goes, doesn't it? Yeah. Just because we think something, does that mean it's true? Yeah. When you see a scarecrow in the field and you think it's a person, does that mean it's a person? Why is that person dressed so messy? Well, and why are they standing perfectly still, like they have something up their back? You know, you think they're a person, you know, and you start trashing them. It's a scarecrow. Yeah? Yeah. But if you put a brain in that scarecrow, yeah, like the Wizard of Oz, you know, the scarecrow wanted a brain, then, you know, you could have a conversation with that scarecrow. Yeah, and say, why are you standing there? You know, why don't you move? Why don't you scare some crows? Okay. A reputation is nothing more than somebody's thoughts. It is not who you are. Repeat, it is not who you are. Repeat, it is not who you are. So a good reputation or a bad reputation, it doesn't mean you are a good person or you are a bad person. And here I want to talk about motivations and intentions, okay? Because we are also very skilled in knowing how to be phony and how to impress somebody and pull the wool over somebody's eyes. Are you skilled in that? Again, you know, you're with friends, you can admit it. Yeah, yeah. We know how to put on a good act. And then somebody tells us we're wonderful. And we can do many non-virtuous things and convince people of how wonderful we are because we do them. I can't resist using Donnie as an example. I can't resist, you know. Is anybody pro Donnie? Am I offending anybody? You're gonna, you know, walk out. When Donnie says, yeah, that our country, that the immigrants are poisoning the blood of the country, and uses that as, and that's what he said, you know, literally. It's straight out of Hitler's playbook. And that there's an invasion of immigrants, you know, poisoning the blood of the country. Okay, is he telling the truth? Hello, is he telling the truth? No. Okay. How many of you have ancestors who were immigrants to this country? Yeah. Were our ancestors poisoning the blood of the country? You know, they weren't necessarily nice people, you know, depending on what our ancestors did to the native people. But most of our ancestors came here looking for a better life or fleeing persecution. Yeah. So is Donnie telling the truth when he says immigrants are rapists and criminals and poisoning the blood of the country? No, it's a flat out lie. Yeah. And our country depends on immigrants. Yeah. Who picked the fruit that you ate for breakfast this morning? Yeah. Chances are it was migrant workers, many of whom are undocumented. Yeah. We owe our breakfast to these people. Yeah, if we ate fruit, who picked it? Yeah. Who often works on labor crews? Like after Florida's having a lot of floods now, but a few months ago they were having hurricanes or something, and there was a lot of damage, and they were going to need people to rebuild some of the homes. And many of the undocumented workers from other countries who would normally go, and help in a catastrophe situation to rebuild, yeah, they didn't want to go to Florida because of Florida's politics, and that they would be arrested and thrown in prison when they were just trying to get work and actually help the people there whose homes were destroyed. Okay, so when you look, do you think that Donnie's trials, he just got convicted by a jury? Yeah, Biden did not create the case. He was indicted in a state, not by the federal government. A jury of citizens, found him guilty. Was that a witch hunt? Yeah. Or did he actually, falsify the documents and so that he could cover stuff up and do better in the election? Yeah. So if he's lying, yeah, he's very good at convincing people that he's innocent. Oh, it's a witch hunt. It's a hoax. Yeah. They're coming after me, and if they get me, they're going to come after you. So donate to my campaign so that I can be president. Yeah, who's they? Who is the they that is coming after him? Okay, the deep state. Okay, who is the deep state? Yeah, do you know anybody in the deep state? Yeah, do you have any names that fall in the category if this person is in the deep state? Yeah, do you know anybody in the deep state? What's the deep state? Yeah, give me a definition of the deep state.
I mean, it's definitely not like Trump's version of the deep state. So, I mean, no, I don't know anyone in Donald Trump's deep state.
Yeah. And what's the deep state? Who cares what words mean? Just use them. I mean, he was honest last week. He said to some of the people, where was he? I don't know, one of his rallies. And he said, I don't care about you. I just want your vote. That was the first true thing the guy said, Yeah, it was all over the news. So, I'm sorry. I mean, he's just such a good example. Yeah, he knows how to pull the wool over people's eyes and convince him that he's other than what he is. Because so many people think he's fantastic and want to put him in the Oval Office again, does that mean he's good? Is he a virtuous human being who cares about others? Yeah, his whole agenda for getting reelected is filing court cases and throwing his enemies in prison. And he said that very clear. Yeah. So I'm using that as an example, but what I want all of us to do is look inside and see how how and when our own actions are insincere, how we're putting on a false front and convincing people that we have qualities or characteristics so that we have a good reputation. Does other people thinking wonderful of us make us wonderful? No. Okay. Conversely, does other people calling you names and telling you you're stupid and you're a jerk and you don't know what you're doing, does that mean that you're stupid and a jerk and you don't know what you're doing? Just because other people say things or even mean things, yeah, is that a good way to assess your own value as a human being? Is that a good way to assess whether your actions are virtuous or not virtuous? Whether you have a good intention or a bad intention? Yeah. So much in our world, we rely on other people to tell us who we are. And we don't know how to be honest with ourselves. Okay? So, and I had the experience one time that was such a good example of this. I was living at a monastery in France, and one morning one nun came in and said to me, "Oh, you're such a good nun. You keep your precepts very well. You're a really good example for the rest of us. You're a very pleasant person, and like really said all these nice things about me." She left. About a half an hour later, another nun came in and said, "You don't keep your precepts very well. You're really difficult to get along with. I have no idea why you're here. It seems like you're not really, wanting to, you don't have the right mental state to be here." Okay, so within a half an hour, one person said I was fantastic and I would held my precepts very well and I'm a good example. And the other person said I was a disaster and I didn't hold my precepts well and I was, just phony baloney or whatever it was. Okay, this was such a good experience for me because if I believe everything everybody says about me, then I don't know who I am anymore. This one says I'm good. This one says I'm wonderful. Okay. This person wants me to be more assertive. This person wants me to be very meek. Yeah. Who do I try and please? Yeah. Is my role as a human being just to please other people so that they think well of me? It doesn't matter whether I really like them or not. I just want their vote. Yeah, I just want them to think well of me. So it doesn't really matter whether I like them and whether I'm nice. I just have to look that way. Yeah, when I have that kind of motivation, even if I look so generous and so kind, am I generous and kind? No, I'm phony baloney. Yeah. So my point here is we have to develop the ability to assess our own actions and to see if we consider our own action virtuous or non-virtuous, you know? Because we can do something with an incredibly good motivation, and other people will swear at us. And we can do something with a very manipulative motivation, and other people will praise us. Yeah. So it doesn't mean that we're virtuous or non-virtuous, just dependent on, what kind of impression we've made. Because why is this? Because at the end of the day, we're the ones who have to live with ourselves. Yeah, we're the ones who have to live with ourselves. And if we don't think that, our motivations were good, then we're not going to have the kind of self-confidence and self-respect that, that we want. Okay. Now, so we have to be able to look at our own intentions and motivations and assess them, because our motivations are the most important part of any action we do. Not what other people say about us, but what our intentions are, what our motivations are. Okay? So that's why here, did you notice before you went out, you go to the forest to work, that you recite a verse, about working together? Yeah. Have any of you, are you chopping vegetables after breakfast? Anybody? Nobody? You are? Yeah. Yeah. Huh?
I did the other day.
The other day. Okay. Did you read the verse? Yeah, for working in the kitchen. Yeah. At the end of morning meditation, are they having, are you reciting the monastic mind verse? Okay, so you can see in our lives here, all during the day, we're constantly reminding ourselves of good intentions so that we can act with good intentions in what we do. Okay. So here, let me give you an example that I think is really good. So I always give this example. Okay. So there's somebody raising funds to build a clinic in a rundown neighborhood, okay, where people don't have good health care. And they're raising money for it. Okay. So, some guy over here gives $1 million for the clinic. He's very rich. He writes out a check, gives $1 million. Yeah. And he's thinking, this is good. People in the community will know that I'm very wealthy because I was able to give this money. And also, when they build the clinic, they're going to put a plaque in the entryway saying this clinic was built to, due to the generosity, and they're going to have my name on it. And they might even name the whole clinic or a room in the clinic after me because I gave the money, so much money for that. Okay, so that's one person who's a donor. Another person who's a donor doesn't have a lot of money, yeah? So they give not $1 million, they give $20. But they're thinking, may everybody who goes to that clinic when it's built be healed from their disease. And may the may they receive the treatment they need, and also to heal them and to repair injuries. May they have their illnesses prevented by having the clinic and good people there to help them. And so with that motivation, somebody gives $20. So who's the generous person? Yeah? The person who gave $1 million or the person who gave $20? Hello? You guys are sleeping today. Huh? Yeah, the person who gave 20. Yeah, they gave far less than the other person. But look at what their motivation was. They really cared about other people. The first guy who gave $1 million, did he care about other people? No, he just cared about making a name for himself. And society will put that plaque there and praise him, and he'll get written up in the newspaper. Yeah. But his mind wasn't generous at all, even though society will say, oh, he's such a generous benefactor. Thank you so much. Yeah. So a thing, when we can learn to evaluate our own actions and not be overly critical. Yeah. So remember that our intention doesn't necessarily match the result and what people say about the result. Okay, let me give you another example. I was talking to one friend who has a friend whose job it is in a university to look over the forms. He's in the science department, okay, to look over the applications of graduate students who want to, work in the university and do their grad work and get a research grant and so on. And so he evaluates all these people. And he was saying that how does he evaluate people? It's not just by the recommendations, okay? But when he interviews them, he asks people, well, what do you do when you design an experiment and you have your hypothesis and that's not what happens? Yeah. What do you do when you are doing a project and everything goes wrong? And he said, this is how he really can see who to accept, as a research fellow in the department. Because when you're a scientist, things are going to go wrong and you're going to fail sometimes. So if the way somebody deals with failure is to blame it on somebody else, to deny it, yeah, to say it's not me, it's this, that, or the other thing, then he says that person won't really be good for the science department. Yeah. So but if somebody, if their scientific experiment fails, their hypothesis doesn't happen, if they're able to go, okay, I can learn from that and design a better experiment next time. And even from learning from my failure, there's something important to learn from that, and I can improve in what I do. He was saying that person is one to accept in the department. In other words, he evaluates people not just by how they succeed, but how they deal with failure. Because in that kind of work, you're gonna fail sometimes. Okay. It's interesting to think about that, isn't it? When my niece was applying for college, I suggested, she had to write an essay about herself. And she has many good qualities. And I said, but also I think, show how you deal with failure. Well, she was not happy at that suggestion, and neither was my sister-in-law, because she has no faults. Yeah, no faults. You don't talk about your faults and your problems in your essay. Oh, they really were mad at me for that. But I thought, to me, if somebody can talk about that, it shows that they have, if they're putting themselves down unnecessarily and taking responsibility for things that are not their responsibility, that is not good. I would say that person has, has a self-defeatist attitude. But if they're willing to own their own mistakes, yeah, and they're willing to learn from their mistakes, then it's like, okay, yeah, because how many of you have filled out job applications? Okay. Do you tell 100% truth on your job applications? No. Okay. So it'll say, do you know such and such? And you write, either you lie and you say, yes, I know, when you don't know, or you say, no, I don't know that, but I'm a fast learner, so you can teach me. I'll learn it very quickly. Right? You don't say, no, I don't know how to do that. And actually, I don't know why in the world I'm applying for this job. Because I don't even want to learn how to do that. This whole thing doesn't interest me at all. Yeah. So, yeah, learning to just look at, well, why am I doing that? Yeah. Now, does that mean that you never show your good qualities to other people? Yeah. No, we have talents, we have abilities, we have knowledge. Okay. We don't have to brag about them. Yeah. But if somebody asks, you can say, well, I've studied X, Y, Z, or whatever it is. Yeah. One of my teachers, well, his previous life was my teacher. Then that man died. He was reborn, and the young one is. I was with him when. How old was he then? He was maybe about, I don't know, 12, 14, something. And he was saying, if I'm a good cook, I don't need to go around and tell everybody what a wonderful cook I am. All I need to do is cook, and then they will see. And I thought, yeah, that's the way we should be with our good qualities. I don't have to go around and blab. I mean, if somebody asks, can you do this? Do you have this knowledge? Yes, I can answer it frankly. Okay, but I don't have to boast. And, if I have that ability, then if I live with that, people will see it. I don't have to be arrogant and go, look at me. Yeah. Okay. And so we see our talents and abilities, and then we use them to benefit other living beings, and we don't get arrogant, because we're, who we are is all due to the kindness of other people. How did we get that knowledge? How did we get that talent, that ability? Somebody taught us. Yeah. Somebody taught us. Everything we know is because somebody taught us. So we can't go, oh, I am so innately wonderful. I'm the incarnation of Albert Einstein, um, yeah. No, if you have good qualities, we use them. Yeah. When we have bad intentions, we own them, and we try and apply the antidote so that we don't continue to have that kind of rotten intention. Mm-hmm. Okay, and so then we learn antidotes. We learn how to switch our way of thinking. And when we switch our way of thinking, when we switch our perspective, we can actually see the situation more realistically, and we can own our mistakes. Making a mistake does not mean you're an awful person. Okay? We tend to get so down on ourselves, oh, I made that mistake. I'm a failure for life. My brother, sister, even though they're 20 years younger than me, and they're still 5 years old, they're better than me. I'm a failure. Give me a break, okay? Yeah. No, we all make mistakes. Learn from your mistakes. Don't criticize yourself. Just learn. Yeah. We have some good qualities. We don't need to be puffed up about it. We use them to benefit sentient beings. Okay, then our mind is much more peaceful because we're not out every day, with our sensors on of what do other people think about me today. Yeah, I don't come in here to talk to you every morning. Like, do they like me today? Do they approve of what I said? Oh, I talked about Donnie. Oh, one of them is actually a Republican. Now they hate me. They're going to tell everybody else in the group how I'm a big fat liar because I said Donnie was a liar. Now they're all going to think horrible of me. They're going to walk out in the middle of my talk. They're going to write horrible reviews. I will be humiliated because I'm nothing more than a piece of trash. Yeah. Did you learn this thing when you were young? I have to check up on generational things. Yeah. Nobody loves me. No, nobody likes me. Everybody hates me. Think I'll eat some worms. Yeah? Did you learn that in school? Oh, some of you did. Some of you didn't. Okay. Yeah, okay. So there's some generation. Yeah. But everybody knew the scarecrow from the Wizard of Oz. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So, this is why at the beginning of our meditation sessions, we always take some time and we cultivate a good motivation, and that's what I'd like to start our morning sessions with, but we start talking first. So I'm just kind of relying on you creating a good motivation in your morning meditation and not losing it by the time we get here. And I'm relying on myself to come here with a good motivation too. Okay, how's your serotonin today? Are you in a good mood?
I'd have to check my EEG
Oh,
to be able to tell you that.
okay. Your EKG or your E?
Maybe
it-
my fMRI.
Oh, your fMRI.
I have
What-
to compare them,
Oh, okay. What's the F for?
functional,
Functional? How's it different than a regular MRI?
because
One isn't functional.
Huh?
The original one isn't functional.
Oh, I've had MRIs. They function. Yeah. Are you saying my MRI? Yes, so you have to check it. You know, it costs a lot of money to have an MRI. I don't know about the fMRI. If it was a D, maybe the D standard for discount. The F, full price. But MRIs are very expensive.
if we don't have a good reputation, people aren't going to want to interact with us. So
Yeah, but if you are a kind person, yeah, people, do you think if you're a kind person, everybody's going to look and say, what, I don't want to hang around him? No, if you're a kind person, people will see that. Yeah. Now, sometimes it happens that people misunderstand our intentions and criticize us. Yeah. In that case, there's some really interesting stories from the tradition. You have to see what is the skillful thing to do in the situation. Sometimes somebody criticizes you, and the skillful thing is just don't say peep, and let them do what they do. And sometimes, they stir something up and then it just goes away. Other times you have to, maybe go talk to that person and, they're saying something false, so give them the correct information. Yeah. So it depends. There's some really interesting story. One story was about Patrul Rinpoche. He was a great Nyingma Lama, and he was very humble. He didn't. In old Tibet, he wasn't riding on the big horse going places. He was very, very humble. And one lady who was, quite a wealthy lady, saw him and said, "You want to come work for me?" And he came and worked for her. So he was, milking the cows and shoveling the cow poo and all of this. And she was living in her nice house. And then later, she said, "Oh, there's some very famous lama that's coming to this place. Let's go listen, and you can come as my attendant. Walk behind me as my employee, my servant." Okay, so they're walking to go to where this place is, and then people are lined up on the route, saying, "Oh, thank you for coming. We're so excited about your coming," And the lady thought, "Oh, they don't, they realize how wealthy I am, and my riches, and I'm a high status person, and they're all lined up ready to receive me." And it was actually for Patrul Rinpoche, because he was a very great Lama who had that reputation. But when everybody was lining up and applauding, he didn't say, "Oh, excuse me, I should be walking in front. They're applauding me. Yeah, he didn't correct it. He just, okay. Yeah. Because why did he do that? I can't say another person's motivation. I can make some guesses. He might have thought, that's kind of good for my own practice to learn to be humble. Or he might have thought, he might have had some ability to understand how this lady's mind worked and thought, it would be good for her. She gets some praise. Maybe that will help her. Or, maybe after she gets some praise, then, people find out that, she finds out that it wasn't really her. Well, that may make her a little bit more humble, which might be good for her. Okay, so I can't say what his motivation was, but, would we do that? Would we, follow along somebody who was getting the praise that we thought we deserved? Yeah, no, we stand up. Well, if you're a woman, you were taught that you don't say anything and the man takes the credit for it. Right, ladies? That's what we're often taught. Is that how we should act? Thank you. There's some people who are looking a little bit confused about that question. Does that mean that you step up and you go, this guy's speaking, beep, 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 don't listen to him, I did it? No, it doesn't mean you have to do that. Yeah, but you can stand up and share and, give the correct information. You don't always have to, well, yes, I'm the wonderful woman who's behind every successful man. Yeah, is that who you want to be in your life? No, you have your own talents and abilities. Yeah, you can be your own person. What do you think? Do you believe me? Okay. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hello. Okay. I had a question about, or I was hoping you could talk more about like not giving up. So, for example, like the graduate student has an experiment and his experiment fails and he takes full ownership of that. Like, oh, maybe I did something wrong or my hypothesis was incorrect in some way. And so he designs another experiment and it fails and he like keeps doing that. And he like after a while, wouldn't he get tired?
Yeah, I mean, if somehow your hypotheses, one after the other, are failing, and you're not learning anything from it, then you just give up. I mean, if okay, somebody's going to teach me how to play football. Okay, so I'm going to try and play football. I'm going to take that ball and throw it, and it goes 3 feet. Yeah, if I'm lucky. Yeah, maybe it just falls out of my hand and lands on the floor at my feet. If I might do that, and it's like a few times trying to learn to throw that football, trying to learn to tackle somebody who weighs 280 pounds, and instead I get squished. And I might realize, this is not my strong point. Yeah, this is barking up. If I want to become a football star, this is barking up the wrong tree. Yeah, that doesn't mean I'm a bad person. I have other talents, other abilities, but football is not it. Okay. Yeah. So that's okay. I mean, you try different things and you see how it goes. But you know what often happens is we give up before we try. And I am guilty about this. Okay. So this is one thing. When I went to school, so I'm going to blame the education system because this is really their fault. Okay, let's get that clear. Yeah, it has nothing to do with me. It's the education system. When I was in 8th grade, okay, the boys went to shop and the girls did home ec. Yeah, how many of you went to schools where, in somewhere in middle school, the boys did shop and the girls did home ec? No, they don't do that anymore? Good. Okay. So I was put in the home ec class. So I learned to sew. That was good. Yeah, I learned to sew. I made some clothes. I learned to cook a little bit, which was okay. What else did I learn? I already knew how to change diapers because I had a little sister. So that I learned that. So the boys learned not just how to change a light bulb, but how to use saws, how to use hammers, how to build something. Okay, how to fix something. Something breaks. I was taught when something broke, my family, don't touch it because you'll only break it even more. Okay? So, fast forward. I'm living in a monastery. Yeah? Something breaks. What do? Do I even try to fix it? No. Because I don't know anything about electricity or plumbing or anything. Yeah, I can change the light bulb. Yeah, I can't necessarily reach the light bulb. Yeah, so I call somebody who's taller than me to go and reach the light bulb because I can't. But the lower light bulbs I can do. Can I fix some electric thing that's broken? No. Yeah. Computers. Yeah. Do you know how your computer deliberately makes mistakes and deletes things? Yeah. Have you learned that? Yeah. That your computer has its own personality and it does things it's not supposed to do. You click this and it does that. And it changes your whole screen. Yeah. So the cat walked across the keyboard, and now I can't read like this. I have to read like this. What do I do? Yeah. I Google, turn keyboard right side up. And Google tells me, well, you go to this and you click that, and then you click down the menu to this and that. You follow the instructions. It doesn't work. Yeah? They didn't teach me in school. So what do I do whenever there's something that's broken or something that goes wrong with the computer? I ask for help. Okay? And, I wish I knew those things. But my point here in telling you this was that because I was never encouraged to learn those things when I was young, I have the mind of, I can't learn that. It's too hard. It's too hard. I can't learn it. In high school, I learned physics, and how physics explained electricity. But for me to do something practical with electricity, forget it. And I've also forgotten all what I learned in physics class. Yeah. Yeah. So whenever I want to understand physics, I go to Venerable Rinchen. She was a physics professor. I ask her, you know. That doesn't happen so often. I usually go to her for computer help. Yeah, because she understands computers. Yeah. Yeah, she makes her screen black with white letters because it conserves the battery. How do I do that? Yeah. So, yeah. So, my point in this is sometimes we are our own worst enemy, and we tell ourselves we can't do something. And when we tell ourselves we can't do it, then we can't do it. Okay. So starting the Abbey was a very good experience for me in that way, because I had to do things that I didn't know how to do, and I had to learn. Okay. Yeah. Do any of you know how a septic system works? How a septic system in the ground works? Yeah, one person. Any of you know how it works? We know how to flush the toilet. Yeah. Yeah. Do you know what happens after that? Yeah, okay. You know. Do you know how those sand filters work that they're making? Oh, that's our septic system. It's some kind of fancy-pantsy thing. Our other septic systems are just right out here. They're easy to understand. That one, I don't know. Okay. Do you know when you turn the water on, do you know where it comes from? Well, the city has a water system. So they just take care of that. All I do is turn on the tap. When you live out here, we're not on a city water system. Yeah, we had to make our own water system. Yeah, and then you have to understand how the water system works. And you have to take tests in every month to the lab to make sure that the water is still pure. And yeah, so there were a whole bunch of things I had to learn that I had, that I had to learn a little bit about. And then as soon as Venerable Tarpa came, she does it. Just tell me the conclusion and how much we need to pay. Yeah, because that's my department, but how we're, and I'll give her things. The other day I said, they're doing that system down there. We're supposed to have a road at the bottom. I don't see where the road is. Will you check and make sure they're including the road in what they're doing? Okay, so I hand it over to her. I don't understand the whole thing. Yeah, but that's my problem. I shoot myself in the foot when I tell myself I can't learn that. Okay. And then I justify it. Well, it's because I'm older now. Yeah. And people should be nice to old people. They're not always. They say, what is it? Hey, boomer? No. Move over, boomer. What? See? I can't even remember. What am I supposed to do as a boomer?
Okay, boomer.
What a bummer. I'm a boomer. What?
Okay, boomer.
Okay, so I'm okay. I'm an okay boomer. Yeah. You guys don't appreciate my generation, what we did for you. Yeah? Yeah. We know how to protest. You just copied. And he didn't do a very good job at it either. We stopped the Vietnam War. Hmm? 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 Yeah, so boomers are okay. Yeah. Let's hear it for boomers. Okay, yeah.
I actually want to hear more about how you started the Abbey. Earlier, we talked about intentions, and something I really appreciate during the time here is before every activity, there's always some intention. And I was like, why do I always really enjoy what I'm doing? And I think the intentions really help. So I'm curious, as you were, setting your intention for this Abbey, what was that like? With any, I mean, you talked about some of the challenges, but I'm just curious to hear more about what that has been like.
Okay, so, okay, well, then I have to go back many years to, yeah, because this is, if I just talk about this lifetime, my teacher said that he came here one time and he said, oh, she's been thinking about this for many lifetimes. I don't remember Rinpoche, but if you say so, okay. But, okay, so I was part of the first generation of Westerners encountering Tibetan Buddhism. And so, we met it in Nepal and in India. The Tibetans were refugees there. Tibet itself was closed off under the communist government. And anyway, who wanted to go there when the Cultural Revolution was going on, it wasn't so safe. I don't know how safe it is now. There's a lot of people being tourists, but I think they also watch you. Anyway, so we were at the monasteries. The Tibetans were just setting up their own monasteries. They're dirt poor. They arrived in India with nothing. It was really the kindness of Nehru, the Prime Minister of India at that time, who offered them land. Some land in the south to rebuild, some land in the north in Himachal Pradesh, where the Dalai Lama's headquarters are in Dharamsala, so the Indian government was really very, very kind to the Tibetans. But they were dirt poor, and India was really poor at that time. So we came along, and our teachers were very happy to teach us, and we wanted to ordain. They were happy to ordain us, but they couldn't support us. They couldn't give us food and housing and clothing and medical care because their chief thing was to reestablish their own monasteries in exile. Okay, so we had to fend for ourselves, and so it's amazing. It's a time of my life when I look at it, and there were many obstacles, but I was so happy at that time. It's really interesting, I had very little money. Yeah, there were some people whose families supported them when they ordained, or who had savings. I didn't have either of those. My family did not support me. I had a little bit of savings that got used up. And then I was kind of in India with $50 to my name and, rationing my own food because, what was I going to do when my $50 was over? So somehow, I managed, and I made a determination when I ordained. I was never going to work for a salary. I was never going to work to earn money. I was never going to hold a job, because the idea when you're a monastic is, the way the Buddha set it up is that you the lay community supports the monastics, and the monastics practice and then share the Dharma with the lay community. So it's a mutual thing that you're doing. One gives material, the other gives the Dharma, okay? But it's a reciprocal thing. And so I was there, I had visa problems, American visas, American passport isn't always the greatest. In India at that time, if you were a British citizen, it's like you got lots of privileges with your visa, but now it's different. Anyway, I had American passport, that didn't work. So I had visa problems, I had health problems, I had money problems. You know, I got hepatitis and had to travel from Nepal to Dharamsala in May or June. It was probably June. Yeah. June is the hottest month in India. Okay. It is pre-monsoon. It is hot. We had to travel overland, third class trains and so on. Yeah. Anyway, so there was all this going on and never, having to pay for rent for a room, having to buy my own food, everything. So somehow, I managed, and then my teacher sent me back to the West and so on. But I really, I loved living with other monks and nuns. I just thought it was, it was wonderful, living with people who had that kind of intention and people who were interested in the same thing that I was interested in. But as Westerners, it was very difficult for us. And also the language thing. Yeah, if you didn't know Tibetan, then, we got all of our teachings by translation, or, my first two teachers, they knew some English. Yeah. That's the one who said, they means well, dear, Third person is singular, you just add an S because you add an S to all the other verbs, So, yeah. So, somehow we learned. And we loved the Dharma, we were so happy because we loved the Dharma. We loved our teachers, our teachers were just incredible examples. And yet, we were becoming, I was becoming kind of like I call it an international ping pong ball. Because my teacher sent me here and then sent me there and then sent me there and then sent me there. And I just wanted to stay in India and, be with my teacher and learn. But, he was getting asked to start different centers in different places. So he sent us all out to do different things. Okay. So, so I always wanted to live with the Sangha. And it wasn't always possible because my teacher was setting up Dharma centers. Okay, so Dharma centers are very different than monasteries. Monasteries are where the monastics live and lay people, like we have a monastery, so you can come and visit and stay with us and so on, okay? Dharma centers are designed for the lay people. Monasteries, our curriculum and things like that are designed for the monastics. And so we teach the monastic discipline. At the lay centers, the curriculum is designed for the lay people, for householders, okay? And then, I was often living at Dharma centers, nice people, sometimes, some of them were, and anyway, but me, I was so easy to get along with, and no problem. Yeah, I was always extremely cooperative. That's why, they always made fun of me and told me I was the worst thing that ever happened to that Dharma center. Yeah, the director told me. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, now I'm gonna wind up telling you my whole life story. No, this is my. Which story do I tell you first? Okay. Just remind me to tell you my Italian story, and then you'll understand what I just said. Okay, but right now I'm telling the Abbey story. Okay, so I'm this international ping pong ball, and at one point, I wound up being I was the resident teacher in Singapore, and then my teacher, changed me out, had somebody else come, so I was back in the States. I had no place to live. Um, yeah, it was really interesting. Um, and these people in Seattle said, we want you to stay here and be our teacher. And I said, but you have to support me because I don't work. They go, "Oh." And then they had a bunch of meetings and they said, well, she wears the same clothes every day. She doesn't wear makeup. She doesn't have designer clothes. She doesn't have a car. She doesn't have, she doesn't go out to disco. She doesn't go to movies. Yeah, we can probably support her. So I became the resident teacher at the Dharma Center for 10 years. I was there, and they were quite kind. But I always had this thing like I wanted to live in a monastery. So then I wound up moving to Missouri to a Chinese temple that they were just starting because I had some Chinese friends and then some Theravada friends. And so we thought, oh, we're going to make, the Chinese have the temple, we'll make a community where we practice all three traditions. And it sounded really good. Well, it didn't exactly work out, okay? Because everybody had their own way of doing things. And one person was going through things in his own mind coming back from Asia to the West. He needed to sort some things out. Anyway, okay, that didn't work out. So then I'm homeless again. And I was staying at one of my teachers who he was alive at that time. This one, Geshe Sopa, incredible teacher. Yeah, he really. So I was at his Dharma center, and I had no place to live, and the program at his center was ending, and I had to leave. And I'm wondering where to go. And I got a letter from a friend in Boise who said, we have a small Dharma center here. Come and, be our resident teacher, and we will help you look for land for the monastery. So I said, Boise, Idaho. What do they have in Idaho? Potatoes. What else do they have in Idaho? Rednecks. But, well, here were some people who I needed to go. I had no place to live. So I went to Boise. I was a resident teacher there. There were some nice people there, yeah. Rednecks can be very nice people, We just vote for different things and have different causes. But, one of our neighbors down there, most of our neighbors are rednecks. Yeah, but we get along fine with them. They're quite nice. We just don't talk politics. Okay. So I'm living in Boise. We're going all over the place looking for land. Can't find, because I knew exactly what I wanted. can't find it, We went through, we made offers on some land to, but thank goodness, you know, the offers were not accepted, so we wound up not getting that land. Okay, now you're probably wondering, whose money are you spending to make these offers on the property? Well, okay, when I had lived in Seattle and Singapore, then people had made donations, which I saved because I had nothing to spend it on. I found really cheap mascara, so I saved money. Yeah, and I just used chapstick instead of lipstick, and I went like this, so I didn't need so much powder. No, so I just saved the money. I had nothing else to spend it on. So that money was going to be used, to start the monastery, and clearly have to do some inviting generosity. Okay, so we're wondering what to do. We can't find places anywhere in central Idaho, southern Idaho. So at that time, Venerable Chuni, you know which one she is, we all look alike. Yeah, so she and another friend of ours lived in Cataldo, Idaho, with the potatoes. And they started looking for land. Yeah, so they found different places, and Susan, our friend, knew somebody who was a realtor, and so sent me the realtor's website. So it was mostly properties in Idaho. Okay, so I thought that real estate is so boring. My parents loved real estate. On Sunday afternoons, you'd sit in the car and drive around and look at houses. I thought real estate so boring with a capital B, and they would talk about, down payments and interest, and, I didn't know what any of that was. I didn't care. So boring. Okay. So, yeah, that's one of the big things I had to learn. So I'm looking at the website of this realtor, and there's some okay places, and then there was this one building with lots of windows. Okay, and I love buildings with lots of natural light. Okay, and I said, let's go look at that building. Okay, well, it was the only place they had in Washington State, listed at that realtor's. And so I looked at the price and I said, this was before I said, let's go look at it. I looked at the price, oh, the building is great. What, wonderful, it's beautiful. But the price is not so beautiful. It's way, way, way more than we have. But one of my friends said, let's just go look anyway. Okay, so we drive out here. Okay, the building I saw was that one. When you stand in the garden and look at the house, there's all these big windows and lots of natural light. So we come out here. Do you want a break? Okay, no, okay, you don't say anything, I'll keep going. I'm talking about me, so it's incredibly interesting. Yeah, even though I've told the story, I don't know how many times, but I'm jazzing it up for you. Okay, so we come out here, and there's an older couple who owns the property. Yeah, and they're selling it because they're older. They need to move into a town, to a city where they have better medical access. So, we were looking around at all the buildings and things like that. And, it's really nice. And And then we went up to the top of the meadow and we're looking, and it's so gorgeous, because I very much wanted a place with land and forest and meadows, because it's so good for your mind when you're doing intensive meditation and study, to be able to just go and be in nature and look at the sky and, hear the silence. So we were standing in the upper meadow, and I was saying to my friend, it's so nice here, but, what are we going to do? And, where will we make the meditation hall? Can we change the barn into a meditation hall? So my friend said, let's just go down to the barn and look. Okay, because at that time, the only buildings, there was this house, Ananda, there was the barn, there was a tool shed at the end of the garden, not the two cabins there, and the meditation hall was the garage for this house. And the meditation, what is a meditation hall now, the garage was down there right below where the library is. Okay, we converted it into a meditation hall, and when we built this building, we dragged the meditation hall up the hill to its present location. Anyway, so we go down to the barn, and we're looking, and who's at the barn? Harold, the owner. He was there doing some work. So we start talking to him. And, we say, it's so beautiful here. It's just really nice. And my friend doesn't know, I had heard by this time that the buyer and the seller aren't supposed to talk to each other. Yeah, you're both supposed to have realtors who negotiate. They don't want the two of you talking to each other. But we go down there, we start talking to Harold. My friend says, without checking with me first, but thank goodness he did this. He said, the land is beautiful, but there's no way we have the money to pay for this. It's just way beyond our budget. And banks will not give us a loan because when you're just forming an organization, they don't want to give you a loan, and they don't want to loan money to religious institutions, because if they have to foreclose because you can't repay the loan, it's very embarrassing for the bank. So, so Harold says, my friend says, well, we can give X amount for a down payment, but we can't pay the price. So Harold says, well, we'll carry the paper, we'll carry the mortgage. Because a bank would not carry the mortgage. Yeah. Okay, he would carry the mortgage. Okay. Well, then the next thing, we went back to Susan's house that evening, our friend in Cataldo, and Susan was supposed to get the P&Z codes for all the surrounding counties. P&Z is planning and zoning, because you can only build certain kind of buildings in certain kind of zones. So we look up for Pandaray County. She had a whole folder with all the counties' P&Z codes in it. I flicked the thing for Pandaray County, and there's no P&Z code in there. I said, Susan, oh, I'm so disappointed. We wanted to see what the P&Z code is, because if we get this, if he's willing to carry the mortgage, can we really do with the land what we want? And she said, oh, I tried to get it, but they don't have a P&Z code. You can build anything you want there. Okay. So we do some negotiation. He lowers the price by $15K, which is good, but it's not compared to what the price was. It wasn't, yeah. And we take up a mortgage. Yeah. So, like I told you before, the original residence, yeah, we moved in here, me and Achala and Manjushri, who were not deities, they were cats named after deities. But they were pretty special cats. Anyway, we move in here, and there's a mortgage to pay. We had like $1,700 of a mortgage. You know, this was 20 years ago. So it was 20 years ago's prices, not today's. But it was a lot. And I used to sit in the main room there. There was a sofa that we bought from Harold. I'd sit on the sofa and I'd think, how are we going to pay this mortgage? You know, we have to come up with $1,700 every month. How is that going to happen? So I still have, you know, I had no idea. So I just said, okay, I trust in the Buddha Dharma Sangha. You know, I was told that if you have good motivation and practice, you know, as best you can, you're not going to starve. Well, let's see. Okay, so I just made some pretty strong prayers. So we're still here. We paid off the mortgage, and we paid it off early, saving about $30K in interest because we paid it off early. Where did the money come from? People who saw, who heard about what we were doing, and who thought, yes, that's good if there's a monastery there. Yeah, so it's all by other people's money. You know, even the money I had saved from the offerings people would give me, it's other people's money, it's not my money. Yeah, so we paid it off. That's how we wound up here. Yeah. So at the very beginning, Ananda, yeah, that building there, it was bedrooms, offices, kitchen, dining room, everything, classrooms, everything happened in that building. Yeah. The first summer we changed the garage into a meditation hall. So then we had a meditation hall. But everything else was in there. And then people started coming, some of the people who had been part of the center in Seattle. Okay, Venerable Semke, Venerable, all of the early ones. Tarpa, Semke, Chuni, Jigme. Yeah, they were all students at the Seattle Center. Venerable Samtan had come to my retreats before. So, you know, these were the first people who said that they never ever planned to ordain. They just wanted to help me, you know, but they never planned to ordain. Well, I had never planned to ordain either, you know, but your life often it turns out in a way that you hadn't anticipated when you were younger. So, you know, so the monastery started growing, and then other people started coming, and that building, Ananda, was too small. You know, you have your office and your bedroom in the same room, and you have roommates, and the downstairs of the building wasn't finished. We had to put in the walls and the floor and everything for that. Anyway, yeah, so we were outgrowing it, so we had to build more. And yeah, the first thing they did was build the writing studio that's out there. That was a place for me to live. No running water. Okay, I lived in the building 12 years, no running water. It was fine. Yeah, I had my gallon jug, and I would go and, you know, carry water back and forth. They made a really funny video about that. That's another story. Stay with one story, Jojo. Okay, yeah. So so we built the writing studio. Some friends built that together, and then the first summer was the meditation hall, the garage and the meditation hall. Then the writing studio. Then when we were really getting, more people came, we needed more room, we had to build Gotami. Yeah. And so again, we had a little bit of savings, we signed a contract, and then we just asked people, we call it inviting generosity, we don't call it fundraising. It's inviting generosity because people want to be generous and they want to put their resources where they think, it's good. Yeah. So I have no idea how we got the money to pay for Gotami. I have no idea how we got the money to pay for this building because after a while we needed a new kitchen and a new dining room. I have no idea how we paid for this building. That building, I really have no idea. And we haven't paid for all of it yet either. Yeah, we're still inviting generosity with that one. But, I have no idea. But it's really by the kindness of other people who think that who want to support what we're doing. Yeah. So many of the people are people who live in this country and people who come here, but there's also people from other countries who may never be here, but who think that it's a wonderful idea to start a monastery in the barbaric land of America. Yeah. Do you think our country is barbaric? Many ways it is, isn't it? Especially when you read, from a Buddhist viewpoint, some country, where there's no Dharma is called a barbaric country, But this country didn't even need that, You look at our national policy. Okay, I'm one of these progressive people, Yeah, I care about other people. I want them to be happy and have enough to eat. I'm one of these, leftists. Okay, yeah. So anyway, it's, we're still here. And when we started, I told you the story about the food. Did I tell you that story? No. Okay. So what I had learned from when I was working with this one Theravada monastic was, how they do it nowadays is, they go on Pindapat. Yeah, so you have your alms bowl. It is not begging. It's not a begging bowl. They do not beg. Alms, was an Indian custom from way back, people who are renunciants, who are spiritual practitioners, can't work for a living. The society respected them. And so they would come in with their alms bowl and people in the village would give them food to eat. Okay. So our Theravada friends, they couldn't really do that so much in America. We had some friends who went on alms round in city. They had to get a parade permit. Only in America to go on Pindapat you need a parade permit because you line up one person after the other. Okay, so so the lay people brought them food. Yeah, so we live out in the middle of nowhere. I thought, the Tibetans in the Tibetan monasteries, they buy food because there's so many monastics. They really can't depend on the lay people to bring enough food every single day to feed all of them. Yeah, they have a tremendous number of monastics, especially in Old Tibet. So, but I decided I want to do something like that, so that we're really dependent on other people for our food. That's the way that Buddha set it up. So I said, we're not going to buy any food. We will not buy our own food. Yeah. And, we're living in the boonies. Yeah. And we're living in a very conservative area. And people were saying, you're going to starve. Nobody knows what a Buddhist is out here. And everybody thinks you should go to work anyway. And, you're going to starve out here if you're only going to eat food that people offer. And I said, well, let's try. Let's try it and see. So we're still here. We haven't starved yet. Yeah. One time in the early days, the cupboards were empty, but there was still food in the fridge. No, it was the fridge that was empty, and there were still some canned goods in the yeah. And then people brought more food. One time, the money for food was very low, yeah, because people, were donating for that, and and the way it worked out is every week, people in the area would call and say, we want to offer food. And they had a fund where people could donate to that fund, the food fund, because lots of people lived in different places. They couldn't buy the food and deliver it here, but they wanted to contribute. So they set it up where they could send money, and then the local people did the shopping. And they would call and say, we want to offer food. What do you need? And we would tell them. And that's, you brought some food, but there's a lot more food here than what you brought, isn't there? And that's due to the people from the surrounding area and other places who donated the money and then did the shopping. Yeah, but there's another interesting story with that. Was the first year we were here, the people from the Spokane paper wanted to interview us, and like a Buddhist monastery, what do the people do? So they came out and they interviewed, and we had a good time together, and they wanted to know how we operated, and I said, we don't buy any of our food. We rely completely on donations. And anyway, and then we told her, the kind of activities we had, and that, regular people are invited to come and participate and so on. Okay, so she goes back and writes up an article about the Abbey that goes in the Sunday paper in the life section. They always have the life section. So she says in that article, that they only eat the food that's offered them to them, and talks about the monastery. Very nice. Okay, good. Well, the next day, we're here. Life's going on as usual. A big SUV drives up, driven by somebody that we don't know, and it's full of food. And we start talking to her, and she said, well, I read the article in the paper, and I'm not Buddhist, but I heard you only eat the food that's offered to you, and I just wanted to give you something. Whole SUV full of food. We're like, it was just shocking. And then you really see, wow, people like being generous. Yeah, people feel good. They want to support things that sound like good projects or good ideas. Yeah, we were just flabbergasted, you know. So anyway, that's an answer to your simple question. Long answer, yeah.